It's getting worse. Bank-related precious metal buying, selling, reporting to the tax authorities, anti-money laundering. If you own this stuff, you are viewed as an outlier in this modern society. Gold isn't normal. Normal people don't do this. And that's no more evident than when I interact with people who have inherited gold or silver or come across it for the first time and they're like, what's it worth? And I tell them and they're staggered by it. And then I tell them about some of the tax implications that they might need to think about, or the practicalities of selling it and their bank and how perhaps the bank is going to interact with them. And people are just oblivious. We're zombies in this modern digital banking age, and it's only going to get worse with central bank digital currencies. I tell you what, I've changed my opinion on them. I am scared stiff. Hello everybody, Backyard Bullion here. Welcome to another precious metal ramble from my backyard, where we have down-to-earth discussions about all things precious and shiny, with the beautiful sun on our silver and gold and the sounds of spring in the background. It's getting worse. It really is getting worse. This whole privacy, banking, CBDCs, the things that are coming in. Look, for a long time, I've been like, CBDCs, who cares? But, okay, I'll admit when I'm wrong. I like to admit when I'm wrong. Being wrong is okay in this world. And now, the privacy element of everything really is getting to me. Because the state we're in, we might as well have CBDCs, quite frankly, already. So perhaps even when we get to the point of central bank digital currencies, we'll actually have a little bit more flexibility with our cash, because it is all so transparent. Because right now it seems that it's almost impossible to do anything with our money, to actually buy precious metals, use precious metals, sell precious metals, without really having a hard time of it from those banks. So are precious metals the solution? A lot of people have always said, you know, you put your wealth outside of the financial system, but we are kind of all beholden to it, aren't we? We all need to pay bills with actual money. We can't go to our energy companies, and God knows those bills have gone up lately. We can't go to the petrol pump and put fuel in the car with silver and gold, although in certain countries around the world, that is sort of the way that you have to do it at the moment, it seems, because currencies and finances and money are just disappearing very, very quickly. And maybe that's the goal. I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I never have been. I've never been a proponent of the idea that there is a cabal of bankers trying to control the world. I think that's not a healthy way to look at the world. But what I do see is, and I talked about this topic in another video, which actually I don't think I'll have published yet, but there's a phrase called enshittification. Enshittification is the general degradation of just everything in this world down to a lowest common denominator of just really being very, very poor, not great at all. And that seems to be the way that the world is going when it comes to banking and privacy. Now look, we're in a digital age. Of course, privacy is important for everybody, but it's also something that, you know, is very important to individuals who stack gold and silver, because you don't want to have to go and tell all about your own precious metal dealings to any Tom, Dick and Harry on the end of a phone when you are trying to do something. But it happens more and more, and they're getting away with it. They're getting away with it. The banks, I don't mean the banks, you know, I'm saying the banks as if they're all an evil, well, conspiracy cabal in the background, but they're there just doing what they want because they can, because they're protecting themselves, their money. It's their money at the end of the day. People always remind me this in the comment section. You put money in a bank account, it's their money. But gold and silver that you have and hold is your money, your way to do it. Now we'll talk a little bit more about that after a quick word from today's sponsor and how we can move forward and have at least some semblance of privacy in our own personal finances. The sponsor of today's video is Vanguard Mining. Operation Epic Fury is exposing the catastrophic risk of relying on China for 80 to 90% of critical minerals and on oil choke points that are held hostage. Trump's administration launched the most aggressive decoupling in history. Tariffs, $12 billion stockpiles, new allied supply packs, and lightning-fast domestic permitting. For decades, the West gave away its security, and now the US is playing catch-up to revive its mining industry.
Sourcing from US-friendly jurisdictions is replacing China sourcing at breakneck speed, creating the greatest supply chain realignment since World War II. At the heart of it all, copper, gold, lithium, uranium, and for the first time ever, molybdenum, which are all 5 key minerals that today's video sponsor, Vanguard Mining, ticker symbol UUUFF on the US exchanges, has direct exposure to in its diversified portfolio, spanning a number of safe US-friendly jurisdictions. Their projects include gold at Brussels Creek in British Columbia, a gold, copper, palladium exploration project in the Kamloops mining district. Vanguard Mining has identified 2 new copper gold soil anomalies at Brussels Creek as gold trades higher and copper fundamentals strengthen. Lithium, of which China possesses 60 to 70% of the world's lithium chemicals, including lithium carbonate and hydroxide. Vanguard Mining has Argentine projects that are key Western-friendly alternatives to dominant suppliers. Pocketos 1 offers direct exposure to Argentina's world-class salars. Lithium has nearly tripled since 2025. There has never been a better time for lithium. Copper. The future importance of copper cannot be overstated with the rise in technology and AI infrastructure. China imports about 60% of global copper ore and unrefined copper and produces more than 45% of the world's refined copper. China's copper stranglehold via refining monopoly, ore imports, massive consumption and procurement leverage positions it as a gatekeeper for global electrification. China holds a profound stranglehold on molybdenum, dominating primary production and leveraging export restrictions to control global availability, whilst consuming a large share domestically for its own steel industry. China accounts for 42 to 45% of global molybdenum output. Molybdenum is indispensable. It strengthens steel, critical for pipelines, defense systems, aerospace and energy infrastructure. Vanguard Mining's inclusion of molybdenum alongside gold, uranium, lithium and copper makes it uniquely positioned. And finally, uranium. As the US looks to decouple from foreign supply chain vulnerabilities, the mandate is clear: secure domestic and friendly jurisdiction uranium at any cost. The real X factor isn't just policy, it's big tech. Companies like Amazon, Google and Microsoft are now bypassing traditional utilities to secure long-term power directly from nuclear reactors. Vanguard Mining control over 90,000 hectares in Paraguay's Parana Basin, strategically located right next door to the world-class UTI project. Make sure to do your own research for this multiple minerals company. Vanguard Mining, ticker symbol UUUFF, is simultaneously exploring for uranium, copper, lithium, gold and molybdenum. A big thank you to them for sponsoring today's video, and now back on we go with our precious metal ramble.
Okay, so the general enshittification of privacy, bank accounts and money, it stems from, is there a cabal? No. Are they trying to rule the world with your bank account? No. But at the end of the day, they want your money. They want your money to stay in the system, because for whether it be the bank, HMRC, the IRS, the government, the Fed, whatever you want to call it, they want that money there to control you in a certain way. They want to be able to instill a level of dissidence and fear within you that means that you are not going to do your own thing, basically. And that's what gold and silver are best at, taking charge of your own personal finances. From my history of buying silver and gold, I've changed so much in the way that I look at everything. And as I said, I used to sort of look at CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, because we have currencies like that right now. They're not just central bank ones though, they are just bitcoins and the various different cryptocurrency assets that are out there. And, they have their versatility. They have their ability to be a really good tool in a modern financial world. And certainly one which is pan-global. If you're trying to pay somebody who's in deepest, darkest Peru for whatever reason it might be, hopefully not a completely illegitimate and illegal reason, then a happy medium between two things. Can you send somebody gold and silver in the post to Peru? No. Can you pay somebody with your currency? Probably not, because there are a lot of different currency exchange problems and services out there that might not give it to that person. But at the end of the day, a crypto exchange is a common denominator asset that allows people to do that. So CBDCs, I was like, yeah, sure, okay, a crypto version of the pounds, pennies and pence in our pockets, that sounds great. But now I see where things are going, and I have changed my tune on it quite a bit. My early days of CBDCs was, well, if you've not got anything to hide, then what's the problem? But now I'm getting fed up of it, quite frankly, because every time, it seems like every time, it's not every time, but there are a lot of times that it's happened to me where I'll buy something or I'll try to buy something privately through my own private bank account, pay money to, it could be an auction house to buy coins, it could be a bullion dealer, it could be a private individual, people trying to pay other people through our buyer service, and I get messages on my phone that says, we need to speak to you about your transaction. Oh, really? I mean, for God's sake, it's the same conversation every time. I've had some of them that I've shared on this channel, recorded, where you're talking at the other end. How did you get the payment details? Oh, they emailed it to me. Oh, well, we can't do that because, email. What? We're in the 21st century. It just gets worse and worse. And it's this enshittification of the system that we're in. It didn't used to be like this. It used to be better. I remember the days when we first very much got started in sort of the precious metals side. All you needed was the account number and sort code. You didn't even need the name of the person you were sending the money to. You just literally did that. And there's a famous person, you probably know him, Jeremy Clarkson. He did this thing once where he said, well, if somebody's got my bank details, what can they do with it? They can't do anything with it except pay him money. So he published his own bank details in the papers, and I think all that happened was that somebody like paid a bill for him or something. It was that crazy. But now we're also fearful of this because there are a lot of ways that people can manipulate this stuff. So there has to be these protections in place. But again, it comes down to you, the individual. You are the product for this. You are the market for the banks being also cagey about you even spending your money, because the money that you put in the banks is their money now. That's the thing. And I've been reminded about that so many times in comment sections. And it's really not very good at all. And they pretend they're looking after you and your money, trying to protect your money and keep your money safe. Are they bollocks? Excuse my French, but are they bollocks? Because at the end of the day, they have only got themselves to worry about because of new changes in financial legislation, which means that if you are accidentally scammed or even deliberately scammed and make an error on your own behalf, you are covered. You are covered. And so they shifted the responsibility to the banks. And now the banks are the ones that have to be on the hook for it. So they just take an all approach, nuke it button option where they go, do you know what? We need to ask you these questions to protect you. And it's just an invasion of privacy, and I don't like it. And then when you try and complain about things, they've made up their own rules by which they live, which is just a load of crock. And I've seen it a few times. Now, I'm going to tell a little story, an update on one of the things that I've talked about on the channel before. There was a gentleman who was selling some silver, and he sold some silver, received, I think it was approximately £5,000. And his bank froze his bank account, but didn't tell him, right? Didn't tell him. So then when he tried to buy some gold with the money, tried to do the transfer, it didn't work. And when he rang up to ask why, it was like 5 days later, blocked. And they wouldn't unblock it. They wouldn't unblock his bank account unless he proved to them his wealth, unless he proved to them where he was getting his money from. How did he earn his money? He had to provide years and years worth of financial data. He had to so many different hoops he had to go through. And do you know what the craziest thing was? This gentleman was telling me that his mortgage was due early next week, and if his bank account was frozen with that same bank, the mortgage was the same bank, how is he going to pay his mortgage? It's ridiculous. And he complained. They, of course, investigated themselves and found themselves completely faultless in how they dealt with it. Of course they did, because they made up their own bloody rules. So he took it to the financial ombudsman, and the financial ombudsman have advised him that the bank acted within their own terms and conditions, their own terms and conditions that they set out, and therefore they hadn't a case to answer. That said, they did offer him, I think it was £100 in compensation for the inconvenience. And I think part of that's probably because they didn't tell him that the bank account had been frozen for like a week before he found out. And I'm like, so this is how they do it. This is how they win. They just have their own rules that they've made up, and then they just find themselves faultless. And that's the system we live in. So it's just a real enshittification of the system. But unfortunately, it's a system by which we have to live, because if we want to buy this stuff, unless you've got cash, which if you have cash, by the way, you're instantly labelled a drug dealer, a money launderer, or a tax fraud, then you can't buy the stuff outside of the system. Oh my God, I'm going to lose one of these little silver bars through the crack in the table, aren't I? So cash is cash the solution to the problem? No, I've done a video not that long ago about cash. It was the M.Sc video. I'll try and remember to put a link in the description box below. But cash is seen as this dirty thing now. How did we get there? How did the world of cash become enshittified? Shops don't even... I mean, listen, I'm an old man shouting at clouds now, although right now it's a beautiful blue cloudless sky. But, oh, look, there's a little cloud over there. A wee wisp, I shall shout at it. Why are we in a society now where shops don't accept cash? It's just ridiculous. Oh, it's mad. There was a very funny video I did see a while ago where there was a gentleman, he was in a supermarket here in the United Kingdom. It was one of those like express supermarkets in London, and they didn't accept cash, and he wanted to buy a punnet of strawberries, and it was like £1.89 or something, and he had his cash already, got to the front, and they said, oh, you know, it's card only, and he said, I don't have a card, I've got cash. And then they refused to let him do it. He put the £1.89 on the counter and said, well, I've paid for my goods, I'm off. And out he went. And they called the police on him. And the police turned up. It's like, what the hell? I mean, it's £1.89, he's paid for it. In cash. That's the society we're in now, unfortunately. And that's the way it is. But we're all kind of reliant on it, aren't we? We've all got these things in our pockets, our phones, which give us flexibility to take money with us wherever we go. But I tell you what, this scares the living crap out of me. If I'm out in London, wherever it is, big city, and I get my phone out, I am looking around everywhere, because I know that if someone nicked that off me, everything's on it. You know, all the finances, all of the money in the bank account. They'd have to find which bank account, because I've got multiple bank accounts, but it scares the crap out of me, you know, because we got our bank cards attached to our phones these days, to our smartwatches. You know, there's even guidance now from like TfL, the Transport for London group, where they go, if you come to London and you're looking at your phone when you come out of the subway stations, do it in a doorway with your back to the street, because people will ride around on bikes and steal your phone. It's a massive problem. It is a massive problem, and it scares the living crap out of me. More so than walking around with precious metal on me, quite frankly. And I've done that a number of times, going into London to buy and sell and drop off coins at NGC coin grading. You know, I'm not fazed by walking around London with X amount of precious metals on my person, but I am fazed about bringing my phone out in public, because that's just what people want now. They want that commodity of the flexibility of it. And look, there is a flexibility to be said of having everything you need on a digital platform in your pocket, and you can do what you like with it. But no, I'm just old school, I guess. I like having cash, I like having precious metals. So are precious metals the solution? No. Is it just going to get worse from here? Yes. Are we going to see central bank digital currencies come in and make things a lot worse? Yes. Are we going to see the real sort of conspiracy kind of things where people will be banned from buying gold and silver with the money that's in a central bank digital currency? I don't think so. I think if we get to that point, we'll see a real rise in the sort of privacy element of things, but I can definitely see it getting worse from where we are. And certainly from a banking perspective, it's already got bad. It's getting worse almost every week, it seems. And I really do feel like it's going to get to a point where it's almost unsustainable and people will break. And my solution to it, by the way, is to have multiple bank accounts. And the gentleman that I was telling the story about there, who had his bank account frozen, that was his only bank account. And or his main banking account. I think he had a couple of other very small ones that maybe he didn't really use very often or didn't have access to very easily. So my solution I have is multiple different bank accounts. Chase Bank is the one that I've had problems with, so I've stopped using them. But I have now got I've got them, and I've got like 7 others. I've got 7 or 8 other just normal, what you call in America, checking accounts, because they're just really important to have. And that allows me as well the flexibility to get cash out where I want, because cash is difficult to get out of banks these days. You have to answer questions sometimes if you're taking larger sums of it out. But if you go to a cash machine with 7 bank cards and get £500 out per cash card, you can suddenly get quite a lot of cash out at a pinch when you need it. So yeah, I'm just moaning at clouds, and that one tiny wisp of cloud has basically disappeared now, so I guess I've got nothing else to shout at, which is a shame. It's a beautiful day to oh, there's another one over there. Okay, I can shout at that cloud. It's just the way it is. I don't like it. I don't like this sort of race to the bottom that the society's been in, and the individual freedoms that we're losing. And I think that if we just keep talking about it and keep engaging with the precious metals in a responsible way to make sure that we don't lose what we've already got, I think that's at least a step. And unfortunately, a lot of people just are blissfully ignorant of it. They're in a sort of blind, sheep-like state in this world, and that I don't like. That's part of the problem, I suppose, part of the modernisation of this world that we're in. But I guess that's me just trying to pick a battle for another day, really, about society and trying to fix society. I don't think we can. But we can at least try and have a stable message here on this channel of sensible financial responsibility when it comes to precious metals, bank accounts, money, cash, tax, everything. You know, I say it as it is, I say it how I see it. Have my opinions changed over time? Yes. Do I like the system we're in? No. How do we change the system? I don't think we can. Can we work with the system, around the system, to do things in different ways? Yes. With gold and silver. Are they practical? No. So I don't know where the future lies. I'm pretty worried about it. As a father, I'm worried about it. Like, where will it be for our kids in 20 years' time? Will they have problems? I mean, look, okay, we're really down the rabbit hole now with anti-money laundering and in a 17th minute ramble of the video. But you know, cash now, precious metals now, can be a real problem for people. And I've had emails of people who've recently inherited stuff or sold stuff that they've had for a very, very long time. Cash lump sums hitting bank accounts, banks reporting them, or asking them at least for like details for anti-money laundering regulations. There are all these new regulations brought in by governments around the world. Here in the UK, it's awful. We just like, everything is spied on by the big brother. M.Sc will write snotty letters to people who've sold a few things on eBay saying, we think you owe tax, when you don't, you really don't. But they do it because they know they're going to scare some people into doing it. It's a similar thing with like bank phone calls to ask about what you're doing things for. It's none of their bloody business. And I'm being more on it. Whoa, got a coin flowing off the table. Yep, that's gone. Right, okay. Well, you know, I just push back on them now in as polite a way as I can. My simple reply to these questions are, if you can't make the transfer without having the answers to these very invasive private questions that I refuse to answer, then please put the money back in my account and I will try with a different bank. That's what I keep saying. And 9 times out of 10, the second bank I try does it just fine. If the second bank doesn't do it, I've got 7 more banks to try. You know, it is what it is. And that's just where it is. I take a stand, almost like a little moral stand about it. Yeah. Will I win? No. Will I eventually lose? Will I eventually get debanked by one of these banks? Probably. That's a problem as well. But maybe for another time. We've rambled on near 20 minutes now. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you on the next video. Cool kids! I guess you've got to tell me about that errant Britannia that's just rolled off the table. See you down in the comment section. As always, make sure you like, share, comment and subscribe for more.